What's up, Giants fans? Did you guys like your third season in a row? Opened up with 0 touchdowns? I'm really out of. I don't even know what to say at this point. The Giants played the Commanders and got destroyed. The Giants only scored 6 points. The Commanders scored 21 points. But the game was never close. Maybe in the beginning when it first started, but no. The Giants, as soon as you saw their first offensive drive, your stomach had to just drop. Now, we knew going into this game Andrew Thomas was not going to play. He's still recovering from the Liz Frank from last year. I projected us to win this game initially, and then once that news came out, I said, no, we're going to lose. But hey, I think we could still cover. You know why? Because I think the defensive upgrades should help us against this Commanders offense and be an improvement relative to what we did last year. But this game went almost exactly the same, except it was even worse. At least in the first game, we scored 18 points. And then in the next one, when we lost, we did not have Andrew Thomas in that game. At least we scored 14. But now, we can't even score a touchdown. And it's just the opening week. I mean, this is what we've been talking about with Brian Dable as one of the things I think you can't deny that you can't like about him is this is the third season in a row that we have gone without a touchdown on our opening game. Not our opening drive. We're not one of those teams that haven't scored on an opening drive and then we figure it out and then we still put up 24 points. No. We are so far, I feel, from that as a team. Because as much as I am going to go on and on about this alleged Andrew Thomas curse that I think has now been, this is essentially proving it, that it really doesn't matter, honestly, who's back there. Because I know Russ didn't have a great game, but he was under a lot of duress and the offensive line did not look like a unit at all. It was the same thing with the twists. It's like it's still a four-man rush, but just one guy looping on the inside gets a free rush, and Runyon and JMS both split off Daron Payne, heading nowhere, and then Daron Payne gets a sack. And if that didn't even happen, he still would have got sacked by, I think it was Dorrance Armstrong on a loop. The energy and the confidence in this game was once again nearly absent. I mean, there was one point where the Giants were getting, giving the Commanders the business after the play. And I loved seeing it because I was like, wow, we got a fight. We got some fight in these Giants. I remember the last 10 weeks last year, the fight was gone. But there it was. But that's all the fight that I really saw, at least for the most part. I mean, the coaching, the play calling by Mike Kafka, I believe, was the play caller in this game. It's the same thing. And it's just uninspiring QB play, too many mistakes from the skill players, not enough elevation from those guys, yards after the catch, breaking tackles. I mean, there were some good plays by the weapons like Wandale and Malik Neighbors, obviously, but it's just the same thing it was last year, isn't it? I mean, like I said, the quarterback play is uninspiring from the eye test, but as I've already explained, I believe the offensive line, the dysfunction there that has been there for well over a decade, that is the cause of this dysfunctional QB play. Because we've now seen so many quarterbacks play behind this offensive line with and mostly without Andrew Thomas, actually. And it's always the same. The Giants would be clapping if they scored 17 points. 17 points. We would be like, that was a good offensive day for the Giants. And when Andrew Thomas isn't in there, it's always like our opponent seems to know our playbook. They're ahead of every route. They're crashing down on it. They're not afraid of double moves or anything aggressive. They know that we're going to play it safe, conservative, throw it underneath, and if you give us something that is obviously a shot you could take, Russ is going to take it. And he did try, but That's where he wasn't great, because he was not hitting those deep balls like with the accuracy we've seen elsewhere. And now once again, you could come back to the protection. But another thing is it's like he's had a bad offensive line in Seattle. I'm pretty sure that first year in Denver, their line's great now, but they had a ton of injuries. I think Garrett Bull missed the entire season. So you'd think he would be, kind of like Tyrod was, where, he's a mobile quarterback who's been on a lot of bad teams, so he kind of knows how to handle those situations. Obviously, the Seahawks teams have been much better, but it's the offensive line, right? It's dealing with that as a quarterback. Now, Russ definitely looked better than Daniel Jones navigating the rush, but I go back to the word uninspiring. Barely slipping away. Tumbling forward and having us all holding our breath if he's going to fumble. And I like Russ. I'm not even really blaming him that much, but I think we're seeing the worst of him right now. I think we really are. And people were excited about this Brian Daboll offense with Malik Neighbors, and I was talking about how we were going to use the running backs quite a bit and dump it off to Theo and Wandale, and that's exactly what happened. And you know what? The fact that I, a fan, sitting in my room here making YouTube videos, was able to predict what was going to happen from our offensive game plan should say a lot. And I'm not saying I'm some genius for figuring that out. I'm saying I think a lot of people would have said, well, I think the Giants are going to use that running back they drafted along with Tracy underneath and the short weapons, and we're going to use a bunch of dump offs because the line can't hold up. Even if Andrew Thomas is in there, it's a problem. So like I said, it's no secret to other teams what we're going to do when Andrew Thomas is out. The last time we won a game with that game plan without Andrew Thomas was when we beat the Patriots in 2023. And you know why? Because they couldn't make the game-winning field goal. We won 10-7. You should not win a game scoring 10 points. You know how that's possible? Only if you play a team that's bottom 3 in the NFL, like the Patriots were. And honestly, we should have been right there with them, because if we won that game, or if we lost that game, I'm pretty sure our draft position would have been flipped, or it would have been closer, or we would have essentially been in the same spot, right? With strength of schedule deciding what's going to happen. So that game plan has expired. Teams are going to beat us every single time that Andrew Thomas doesn't play. And I get he's recovering from this injury. So we shouldn't rush him back, because if we want to win any games this season, we need him 100%. So this is really not looking good for this season, because I'm starting to think, what if Andrew Thomas doesn't play next week versus the Cowboys? I mean, we're probably not going to win, but we have a chance. We would have a chance if Andrew Thomas was in there, because we might be able to get some runs up the left side, get some pass blocking that holds up, that gives Russ just enough security that makes it just a little easier for him to navigate, or a little easier and more comfortable to make his reads. Because that's really what it's all about. The time to throw, the amount of room you have in the pocket. He makes a huge difference. So our record with Andrew Thomas is 23-37-1. Now 2 of those seasons were before Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. That is a 39% win percentage overall. Could be close to 50 if you throw out those first 2 years. Now without him, and he's missed most of his time in the Daboll-Schoen era, we are 5-18. So 5 wins out of 23 games. That's about a 20-something win percentage. 1 in every 5 games. That projects to about 3.5 games on the season. 3.5. If we apply the 39%, that would put us at 6.5. And if you want to be generous and say we throw out those first 2 seasons, it's going to be close to 7. This doesn't even take into account that we have the second or third hardest schedule in the league. It does not even take that into account. The Giants' schedule moving forward next week, the Cowboys. Now, they didn't have Jalen Carter, the Eagles, when the Cowboys played them, but their offense looks really good, and this defense of the Commanders, or of the Cowboys, is probably on the similar level to the Commanders' defense. The Chiefs and Spagnuolo were cooked. The Chargers, I thought we could win this game. This was assuming Thomas was healthy. He might be healthy by this point. I think he probably will be. could even be back by the Cowboys game. If he is in that game versus the Cowboys, we had him last year with Daniel Jones, and we still lost. So it was a close game. We could maybe beat them, but I don't think it's likely at all. Chiefs L, regardless. The coaching difference with those players on the field. The Chargers just beat the Chiefs and look really good right now. The Saints, we should win that game, but last year when we were collapsing, we lost. We lost to them. The Eagles, L. The Broncos, likely loss. Eagles, another loss. The 49ers are banged up right now. We have a potential chance, but probably a loss. I'm going to assume Purdy is fully healthy by that point in time. Kittle's probably back from the hamstring. That's a loss. The Bears, they look really good on that opening drive versus the Vikings. So Ben Johnson and Caleb, if they're clicking, I don't think this defense is gonna do anything to stop them. And our offense, their defense is fine, so we're gonna struggle. The Packers, they just got Micah, L. Lions, L. Patriots, I think we can win that game, but it should be close. And there's no reason we should be like favored or anything. So potential loss. Commanders, L. Vikings, L. Raiders, I think we could win. I think we could, but they just beat the Patriots. And I'm saying I think we're on their level right now. Probable loss. Cowboys, another probable loss. So we could have maybe 3 wins by the time there's 4 games left in the season. Total points for week 1. The Giants. Last place was 6. How this always happens, I don't know. It's just unbelievable, guys. And I'm going to be a little mixed up. Sorry if I repeat myself. But like I said, I did lose probably a good 25 minutes of me ranting. So I'll do my best to consolidate these thoughts for you guys right now. It's not just Russ. But he was not great. He's supposed to be known for this deep ball. And I get he was under duress, but he was under duress in Seattle in that first year in Denver. And that Steelers offensive line wasn't great. And he was able to connect on some deep shots. And he was missing those throws. We were throwing a lot of screens. And his arm angles. He's a short quarterback. So he's not that great at those. And everything from the screens to the flats to Wandale and Theo and all of that was just so predictable. And I think I mentioned this before, but I'll just dig into it again. It's like the other team just knows our playbook. It's no secret that the Giants struggle greatly without Andrew Thomas and that we resort to a very conservative game plan. So if that's the case and we're doing that same thing every time, it's going to be less and less effective every time because the other coaches are going to be watching film and say, what did they do last time they didn't have him? Let's prepare for that game plan of theirs offensively. You know, the last time we won without Andrew Thomas was against the Patriots in 2023. You know what the score of that game was? It was 10-7, and they missed a game-tying field goal. They were a bottom 3 team in the league. They could have been bottom 5 or 6 if we beat them. Or if we won, if they won, but they were still a terrible team that could not score. I mentioned how the Commanders' defense is nothing compared to the rest of our schedule. There are some way tougher defenses, even though I know Dan Quinn has our number. He just does. He knows how to stop Brian Daboll, especially when the offensive line is vulnerable. Now, none of this is anything new, like I've kind of described. Other teams even sort of picking up on it, but it wasn't even just the offensive line, right? The weapons, Theo Johnson, all this hype to have a breakout season. I love his potential. 2 crucial drops. If this is how we're going to play offense, dumping it off to Wandale, Theo, and the running backs, we can't have drops. That might as well be a sack because they're going to be ready for those dump-offs every play. They were not scared of double moves or anything deep because they either think we couldn't get by them, which I think Neighbors could, Slayton maybe could, but it was more because they knew Russ wouldn't have the time. So yes, the offensive line is constraining what our weapons have available to them in terms of the playbook and Russell, but ultimately
I was not impressed by anyone with the exception of Malik Neighbors. You know, the one flat route catch where Cam Scatterby trucked through three guys for like a 3 yard gain. I haven't been that excited in so long, but you know what? It's sad because it's like that's all we need to know we have a power element in our running game. Well, guess what? That didn't matter either because the offensive line, they could not get push on the goal line. It's like 3 or 4 defensive linemen turning the shoulders of our offensive linemen. We got offensive linemen facing the backfield, running into Cam Scatterby as he's trying to punch it in for a touchdown. It would have been better if he, and this is a joke, but it literally would have been better if he just got out of the way, right? In that case, that's how dysfunctional this offensive line is. It does not look like a unit when Thomas is not out there. Tracy, 2.4 yards per carry, explained by the offensive line. Scat, it's the same thing. Why are we going to run, power runs when we're losing? And then Russ and the rest of the wide receivers, it's like, I think there would have been more for them, but it just didn't look good on offense. Defensively, we were getting pressure on Jaden Daniels. He looked uncomfortable at times, but we get the 2nd and long, 3rd and long, and it would look like we'd run these like 5-man zone blitzes or something, and Jaden Daniels would throw it over the middle of the field between the zones every single time like it was nothing. So all those negative plays that I said were going to matter in this game, that were going to help us win, they were there. And they didn't help us on defense. I mean, they helped us, but it didn't work ultimately. They still scored 21 points. I mean, we slowed them down more, but eventually the run game, those 3rd and long conversions, it never got better defensively. It felt like for the whole game. If anything, it got worse. Dexter Lawrence, I don't know where he was in this game. I don't know. He's supposed to be a big reason why this defensive line is going to be elite, but I didn't really notice him in this game. I'm not going to lie. I don't know what that's about. Micah McFadden was injured in this game. That's not good. Darius Mussau, he was in there getting picked on. And the run defense, too, took a hit when that happened because McFadden's not amazing in coverage, but he's pretty good against the run. I think his pursuit's really good. He always seems to find the ball. And it's like that. Mussau or McFadden out, Thomas out, and this is the result. It's just both sides of the ball. Shane Bowen, I said, if this defense isn't great, we got to be looking at him. But this is where we come to something I said in my off-season videos about the Giants. That when you're in a situation like they have been for the past couple years, and even before Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, when the weapons are bad, the offensive line is bad, there's major questions about your quarterback. The defense has some talent, but has flaws too, like the run defense. The coaches, you don't think any of them seem that great. And everyone always wants to point the finger at one thing and hope that, hey, if we just fix that, then we should be a 500 team. We should be a playoff team if we just had a number 2 wide receiver, if we just had a good offensive line, or even a decent one, or if we could just stop the run and have a top 3 defense in the NFL, or if we could just get the right coach or the right general manager. Guys, what if it's almost all of it, right? That's the point I made, was it's really hard to find out what's wrong when it seems like everything's not working. Because you don't know if this guy's being held back by this guy, right? Because it's a team. Everyone's dependent on each other. The players are dependent on the coaches, and the coaches are dependent on the players. All of the execution, yes, is done on the field by the players, but, obviously the coaches are game planning. They're preparing. They're constrained because there's major flaws and weaknesses that constrain the playbook, and then the other position groups like the weapons are constrained by the offensive lines. There's less time to throw. There's not as good run blocking. And then the offensive line is, getting teed off on because, some of the weapons aren't that great, and we don't have that many guys that get separation, and Russ doesn't have the strongest arm, and all of these things. And this is just every season, copy and paste. This is the conversation we're having. Nobody knows what the problem is. Guys, it could be a lot of these things. It really could. So it just worries me that I thought we had finally escaped that. I thought, you know what, Joe Shane isn't the best GM in the world, but I think he did some good moves in this offseason that have us on the right track. You know what, Brian Dable has had a really bad past 2 seasons. Oh, but the roster was falling apart, and Daniel Jones was a bad quarterback. But then you could say, who put those guys there? Joe Shane. Isn't he making those decisions with Brian Dable? The weapons like I said, are they bad and the line is bad, or is it just one? We don't know. I think we know Neighbors is great. Obviously, he's elite. I think Scadaboo and Tracy look like they're going to be a fine running back duo. I think Wandale is not on the Giants in 2 or 3 years. I would have said the same thing about Slayton, though. He got 1 catch in this game, and we just signed him to an extension as our wide receiver, too. I get I wasn't a huge fan, but if we're going to sign him, we might as well use him, and we're not doing it. Those deep shots to him would have been really good for this offense to get them to back off of Neighbors in the line of scrimmage. It would have been huge. Guys, this is dangerous territory, and as I've mentioned, we have only one hope for the rest of the season, and that is that Andrew Thomas can resurrect this offense. We need, like, Mr. Miyagi needs to come in and do that special move where he rubs his hands and magically you're back to 100%. Boom, heal the foot. Oh, you don't have the muscle memory and the reps down. Let's give him a neuro chip. Just download it into his brain and get him out there. We need him out there. And now these are jokes. It's actually in our best interest to just wait for him to be 100% at this point. I don't think we have a great chance of beating the Cowboys or the Chiefs. So if it takes 3 weeks for him to come back and say, I'm not going to re-injure this, good. I want to finish strong this year, heading into next year, because that's this whole idea, is that none of this season really matters all that much. If we make the playoffs or have an average season, that's great, but we're just trying to build for Jackson Dart, right? We're going to overhaul the offensive line and the weapons in the offseason. The roster will be loaded. What if the coach is the problem? What if the GM picks the wrong guys? He picked a lot of guys this offseason. Darius Alexander, I was excited. He did get injured in the spring, so that's not really his fault. Don't want to judge it too soon. Javon Holland, big money signing, could have went to an offensive lineman. Got the safety at the discount. That's what he wanted. We'll see how the season goes with this defense. Hired Shane Bowen. And lost the relationship with Wink Martindale prior to that, who was a great defensive coordinator for us. Things got only worse for the defense after he left. Things got only worse for our defensive players' development after he left. Because him and Dable were fighting. I wonder the details of what they were really fighting about. I really do. I get it was like, oh, they're calling each other out. Has to go deeper than that. Are they arguing about John Mara or something? Or Joe Shane? Or the players? I don't know, man. I just don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't want to say we have any expectations. I mean, we went through the schedule, guys. We might finish the season with 3 or 4 wins. I mean, if Thomas comes back, like, I like our chances in a lot of these games, but what if someone else goes down? What if Malik Neighbors goes down and misses 2 games? What if Russ goes down and Jameis looks terrible, right? What if these things happen? What if Dexter Lawrence goes down? What are we going to do? So in summary, we have some weapons, but ultimately, I think we still obviously need more. We need a wide receiver too. that we're going to use, but more than anything, we need offensive line stars. I don't want any more swing tackles. Jermaine Illuminor worked out, and I get he was more of a starter than he was a swing tackle. But he was originally brought in for his flexibility with the idea that Evan Neal would work out at tackle. Don't draft and develop these guys. Buy them. Sign them. Will Fries was available this offseason. The Vikings signed him, and they signed the Colts center. 2 guys. And look at all the other players they have. The Eagles, they sign everyone. And they move the money around, and they make it work, and they build through the trenches on both sides. We've got it on defense, but it's useless if your offense can't score touchdowns. Man, guys, this is what it does to you. It's like being gaslit for 7 to 10 years about what's the issue, guys. Preseason hype, off-season hype for the Giants. Big media market. We're coming back. Who cares? Hardest schedule. I laid it out in my preview. 7 wins if Thomas is healthy. If he's not, 5. That's looking generous right now. Still think it's possible, but that's looking mighty generous at the moment. I laid it out. I said, guys, this is how it's going to be. And I was praying he was healthy, but he's not. At this point, like I said, I just hope he comes back when he's 100% and we can actually have him and actually develop the players on this team, develop these weapons, and get this defense going at the top level and really see if Shane Bowen, have a stable offensive floor and see if Shane Bowen can use this defense to carry us to victories, because that was the idea. That was the idea this year. High floor offense, veteran Russell Wilson quarterback with a smart offensive head coach, and then a vicious defense that'll get sacks and turnovers and not let up 3rd and longs. Guys, I know some of you are probably even more angry than I am because you probably had a lot of hope coming into this season with the defense and everything. But I was on this one. I had us winning this game, and then I picked us to lose as soon as I heard that Thomas wasn't playing. But I did think we'd cover, and I was even wrong about that. So I thought the under would hit. Good job, but man, it's just brutal, guys. I mean, like I said, that we don't know what to fix first. I mean, you could spit out whatever plan you want. Joe Shane could still pick the wrong guy. We could still have an Evan Neal, Kayvon Thibodeau. Oh, man. We are in for another ride, people. But you know what? At least we got Jameis this year. And it sounds like a joke, but even with the terrible offensive line behind a team like the Browns, we saw Jameis do some fun things last year. I don't care if we lose by a score of 30 to 17, 30 to 20, 21. Just get some points on the board. Rip it downfield. Screw time in the pocket. Look off a safety. Do something. Obviously, these quarterbacks are far more capable than I am of operating these offensive systems. It's just these circumstances with the blocking, and then they make some mistakes of their own, some missed throws, some failed executions. It is what it is. But you guys get what I'm saying. At least Jameis will go in there and sling it. I don't want Jackson Dart in here. If this is what veteran Russell Wilson, who's been to 2 Super Bowls, looks like, we saw him just last year take the Steelers to the playoffs. The Steelers are built very similar to us, but clearly far better. Far better from a culture standpoint, because they don't make these mistakes. Their average group of weapons outside of DK Metcalf make plays when they're supposed to. They're in the right spots. The offensive line holds up just long enough sometimes to give you those opportunities. It seems like every play for the Giants is doomed from the start. Whether it's a run play and we get no push, or whether it's a passing play and no one's open, or Russ can't get away and or someone gets beat, or they run a stunt. It could be literally anything that the defense does. This is what Dan Quinn does to a man. It really is. To a Giants fan. Oh, man. Guys, you guys, if you watch me, you should know I'm pretty optimistic. I think this is the most negatively I've ever spoken about the Giants. Rightfully so. Year 4 of this, and that's stacked on top of what we were dealing with before that. I mean, sure, this is a little better, but is it? We're not winning any more games. We had one good season. We had a good season with Eli. Back in the day, we lost on a Hail Mary. Very similar team, but still, Eli took us there. Guys, it's only week 1. Things can change. These players can mesh together and improve. We should be getting Andrew Thomas back soon. But, man, who even knows if that's going to be enough? Because, like I said, someone else could always get hurt. What a disappointing start. 3rd season in a row without a touchdown on opening week for the Giants. Another top 5 schedule that we have to play, even though we finish 3rd or 4th in the division. It doesn't matter. We always get a top 5 schedule for some reason. Man, it's just like, I don't think we're just unlucky. I think it's obviously we're bad, right? But I think it's more we're bad, right, than we've been unlucky. Sure, the schedule stinks, but we were in 1-score games last year, and things got a lot better after week 1 last year. I mean, we played well against the Commanders, but, like, I don't know, guys. It's just, it has to leave a terrible taste in your mouth to go into this season with all this excitement and just for this to happen. It's just brutal. Well, I'm going to start preparing my notes for the Cowboys preview. Get that short cooking. I'm going to record my top 10 teams of week 2 after this gets uploaded. And I'm going to relax because hopefully our only hope, Andrew Thomas, can return next week and resurrect this offense, and maybe we can score a touchdown. I would love that more than anything. And maybe, just maybe, there's a universe out there where we beat the Dallas Cowboys next week. Just maybe. But not likely. Wonder what the odds are on that. All right, guys, that's going to be all for this one. I appreciate you all for watching. Giants fans, hang in there. Commanders fans, congratulations on winning your first game of this season. Year 2 of Jaden Daniels. Doesn't look like that sophomore slump is coming. Everyone stay tuned for that weekly top 10. The Pocket Top 10 should be releasing tomorrow at some point or another. And then the Giants preview, like I said. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments. What did you think of the Giants' week 1 disappointing loss? And like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. That's going to be all for this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.